So today's Palm Sunday, and what I want to do over our time together is I'm going to share the story of Jesus coming to Jerusalem through 4 or 5 bits of scripture through all 4 Gospels. The 4 Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and those are the 4 eyewitness accounts of the life of Jesus. And all 4 of those have unique material on the life of Jesus. And the way I always describe it, if you're new to scripture, is if you and me went with 2 other people, so a collective total of 4, to see a movie. And at the end of the movie, we were to go out to eat, and we were to say, what was your favorite part? And we were all to go around and share that. There would be different things that leapt out of the movie to us, and we would talk about that. But there would be moments, scenes in the movie that all 4 of us would say, that was incredible, me too, okay? That's what it's like when you read all 4 Gospels. It's the same movie they watched, which was the story and life of Jesus, and they chose to highlight certain portions. But there's a few select passages that they all wanted to include. And Jesus coming to Jerusalem, famously known as Palm Sunday, is one of them where they all said, me too. I could not write the book without including that part. And so I'm going to take us through all 4 of them in chronological order and stop along the way to give you the full story of Jesus's entrance to Jerusalem. And I want to start in Luke 19, 29 through 34. 29 through 34. My voice is a little scratchy today because I'm overcoming a sinus infection. So pray for me. If it sounds bad, I'm sorry. I'm going to do the very best I can. Okay, Luke 19. Luke 19. Context is Jesus. Luke is our author. And in verse 29, in reference to Jesus, he says these words. As he approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it? Say, the Lord needs it. Those who were sent ahead went and found it just as he had told them. And as they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, why are you untying the colt? They replied, the Lord needs it. And they go on their merry way and they take the donkey to Jesus. Now this is the beginning of Jesus' entrance. And it's amazing because he says there's a donkey tied up out there. No one's ever ridden it. And I want you to go and get it for me. I want you to go into that city and I want you to basically take it. Now, at first it would sound like Jesus is encouraging them to steal. Okay, because he even predicts it. He says, and he kind of sees the future here. Hey, if anyone asks, why are you untying this colt? Just tell them the Lord needs it. And at first, like I said, it makes it think that he's encouraging theft until you realize that Jesus is not just the Son of God, but he's also fully God himself. And so what that actually means is if he's God himself, and the book of Psalms says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, that everything in the earth belongs to God because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, then when he says, go and untie that thing and just tell them that the Lord needs it. He says that not because he's encouraging them to steal, but because it already belongs to Jesus in the first place. It's his donkey. It's his creation. It's his animal. It's his, that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness therein. The Lord needs it. Now this little phrase right here, it's funny because if you're in the mind of the disciples who go and get the colt and they're looking at the eyes of whoever is the current owner of this thing, they utter that phrase, and it's like the owner just goes, okay, we'll take it. Okay, that sounds good. You know, if the Lord needs it, you just have my animal, you know. And this is like a passcode, this little phrase right here. This is like a passcode. What if everything in our life, we could look at it and just say, the Lord needs it. It belongs to Him. The Lord needs it. It's His. This is some type of phrase that gets them access, and Jesus access, to this little donkey right here. They walk in the village and they're able to take it. You know, imagine for a moment this idea that they're able to take this and Jesus has it. Imagine you're at the airport and you're walking through a terminal exhausted and it's crowded and it's busy and you got a long layover and you walk past frosted doors and you smell the scent of free food. And you look at the top there and it says lounge. And you're like, what is this? And you walk into that thing. And if you've ever been to an airport and you're in the hustle and bustle and you're ready to, you know, just chill for a minute, they have these things called airport lounges. But you got to have a bunch of sky miles to get into them or buy into them. And there was a particular time I was walking through that and I thought, I'm going to go in here. And so I tried to get in, and I said, "What do you have to do to get in here? This smell is unbelievable, and I smell better things than, you know, all of the fried food we have out here. It's Hakuna Matata inside this thing." And she said, "Well, sir, you got to have if you want in, you know, you got to have a lot of sky miles to get in here." And I said, "Well, sure, I'll fly a little bit. Look it up. What are you?" I'm sure I got a lot. And she looked it up and she said, "Sir, you don't have enough sky miles to use our bathrooms." So access denied. So I was traveling with another guy one time, and he said, "Hey, come on, I'll take you to the lounge." And I said, "Hey, I don't have enough sky miles to use their bathroom, friend." And he said, "Well, come on, no, it's okay." And I said, I'd really rather save myself the embarrassment. And he said, no, come with me. And we walk in and he said, "Look, I'm a something deluxe, qualified, master chief, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, all the titles. He flies a lot. And they said, "Okay, well, you can come on in, sir." And he said, "Oh, well, he's with me." And they said, "Oh, well, Mr. Kendrick, you can come on in too." And I was able to walk in and went, "Oh my gosh, this is a wonderland. I want to spend all my money to just make sure I can get back to this place." But that phrase, "he's with me," everything changed. And I was ushered into a place because not what was in my wallet, but because of who I was walking with. And when you got the right person that you're walking with, and his name is Jesus, and that name shows up on the list, then places you formerly weren't able to access, because his name, he's got all the sky miles in the world. You can walk into any place you want, and you say, because I'm with him, I'm able to get things and untie things and receive things that I could not, simply because his name is the Lord. And when I use the passcode, I gain access to places and spaces and things I did not have at some point. Come on, are you hearing what I'm saying this morning? It's not based on what you brought to the table. It's based on whose name you're walking with. And for the believer who walks with the Lord, there's not anything that we don't have access to under the realm of heaven. It's the Lord's, and he needs it. The Lord needs your faith. The Lord needs your family. The Lord needs your future. And you ought to look at everything coming and say, the Lord needs it. I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to untie it. This donkey was tied to a prophecy and a promise. And so is the things that God wants to do in my life. Mark 11, to continue the story, says when they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. And many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches. That's where we get the idea of Palm Sunday, branches that they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, "Hosanna!" That word means save us. "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, this was intentionally different. I want to pause right here because this is incredible. Now listen, it says, they brought the colt to him, and Jesus rides in on this donkey. Everybody's shouting things, and everybody is laying down these palm branches. Now, what this means is that he was declaring himself as a king. Okay? Now, kings would ride in at coronation time, and they would have a big celebration. And when they would have a big celebration, they would ride in on a donkey, and it would start their new kingship. And so up until this point, nobody had known that Jesus was the Messiah in a public setting like this. And when he decides to ride a donkey, he's fulfilling a prophecy from Zechariah 9:9 that says that he would come on a colt and a donkey into Jerusalem. Now, here's what's interesting is that most kings, once they had settled into their kingship, they were like warlords. And so they would not ride a donkey. They would ride a horse later on in history because they had fought battles that they had already won. And based on those battles that they had won, they would have victory ceremonies because they had defeated the enemy. And so they would ride in after the battle. And when they would ride in after the battle, everybody would shout and they would celebrate. And this is certain phrases of the Old Testament, if you've heard it. Saul has slain his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. There was a march that would come into the city, and they would celebrate after the victory. Well, that's interesting to me because Jesus is not a warlord, and he is starting his kingship right now, and now everybody knows. Blessed is the name of the Lord. Blessed is the name of the Lord. He comes. Hosanna, save us, save us. He's starting his kingdom reign right now. He's going to ascend the throne of Rome. But what is absolutely something that you can't miss in the text is when he's riding in on this thing. Right at this point, he has not fought a battle because he's not a warlord in the physical sense. So most kings would ride in this and they would celebrate from a place where they've already won the victory. But Jesus is coming in before a battle has ever started. And they're celebrating his kingship, which means it was before any victory had ever happened that he was already establishing himself as king, which means if he was doing it before the cross, the resurrection, and the ascension, where he defeated the battle of death, hell, and the grave, that he's celebrating before the battle because he's already been in the battle because God is omniscient, meaning that he already knows that he's going to win. Are you following my logic? And because he already knows that he's going to win, he doesn't have to wait to celebrate after the battle. Because he already knows that he's going to win, he can celebrate before the battle. Which means in our life that if Jesus is not fighting for victory, but he's fighting from victory. That it means that anytime you are getting ready for a battle, you don't have to pray for victory in the future. You can pray from victory in the present because the battle's already been fought and won. We are the peculiar people who believe that we're not praying for victory, we're already praying from victory. And when Jesus rides in on that donkey, he wasn't trying to win approval. He's not looking for validation. He wasn't showing off military strength. He was announcing spiritual authority and declaring what had already been decided in heaven, even though they had not seen it on earth yet, because we walk by faith, not by sight. That he had already won, it just hadn't happened yet. So when you go into the precipice of a battle and you feel the enemy encroaching upon you, you ought not go, God, I hope. God, I'm praying for. God, I'm believing that. You ought to say, God, I know you already have. I know what's coming next because I'm a person that prays from a place of victory even when I haven't seen it. And that is why we worship before anything even occurs. Come on, give the Lord a shout. It's already done. It's already done. This is declaring before delivery. Because Jesus entered Jerusalem not with a sword, but this statement. He was saying before the whip hits my back. He was saying before the nails pierce my hand. Come on, but before the stone is rolled away in front of that tomb, I've already won. I don't have to do all that and then ride a horse in on this thing. I'll ride in first and let the future do the talking. Good God. That's the posture of someone who knows that their assignment is hard, even if the outcome isn't seen yet. You see the confidence, the swagger. This is not just a peaceful, just a little stride. This is that he who began a good work in me will see it unto completion. I am confident in this. Go get that donkey. Because I'm going to let him know that I'm declaring before anyone's been delivered. Ooh, that's a whole word right there. And if Jesus rode in from victory, then so do you. You're not praying for peace, you're praying from peace because he's the Prince of Peace. If he's the Prince of Peace, that means he does reign on that throne. He's already got it. You're not praying for it, you're praying from it. You're not praying for deliverance, you're praying from deliverance. We either believe the cross and death and hell was overcome and his kingdom reigns because he was resurrected, or we don't. So you pray from deliverance already. You're not trying to win. You're just walking out the victory. It's already yours. That's why the word says no weapon formed against you shall prosper. It doesn't mean that weapons won't be formed. No weapon formed will prosper. That ought to make all of us encouraged in church today to realize that the weapons are coming, but they won't work. They won't work. No weapon will formed against me will prosper. They just won't win. That's why I've got to get it into you before the battle, not after. Some of y'all are waiting for the breakthrough before you worship him. That's a conditional breakthrough worship. You're waiting for the healing before you shout. You got to get it on the front side. Because that's what boosts the faith. You're waiting for the door to open before you dance. So listen to me. Worship before those walls fall. You dance before those chains break. You pray before you see the miracle and you believe it all the way through. Are you getting it? Come on, you're learning how to fight from a place of victory. Victory isn't in your feelings. It's in your faith. And feelings are so fickle. I don't really like them most of the time because golly, do they drive the boat. But I have to pray myself into a place of faith and realize that victory isn't found in how I feel every day. Because if it was, I'd walk around defeated, just looking at defeat. And this is why some of us don't even have an attractional Christian lifestyle, man. We don't look like we're more than conquerors. We don't look like we're praying from victory. Look around, looking at our feet. Come on, get your eyes up. My eyes look up to the help of where the Lord comes from, the hills, for I've seen and I've tasted and I know him. And so victory is in our faith. Victory isn't in your timeline. It's in his promise. It's in his truth. And my favorite, victory is not when you see it. It's when he says it. Now, this is my favorite part. I want you to catch me right there. It's when he says it. It's when he says it. 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 Ooh, there's a prophetic clock for Palm Sunday that I want to get into, because a lot of us haven't seen all the things God wants to do yet, but God's already uttered some stuff in the past. It just hasn't happened yet. Are you following me? Okay, let me take you to the next piece. Luke 19, verses 39 through 44 says this. Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." He said, "I tell you, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out." As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, "If you, even you, had only known on this day," say on this day. Okay, now hold that thought. I'm going to read the rest of it, but we're coming back to that. Very specific. What would bring you peace, but now it's hidden from your eyes. And the days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment against you and encircle you and hem you in on every side. They will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize, look, the time of God's coming to you. Now here's where it gets deep. Jesus did not ride in by chance. He came in right on time. The prophetic clock was set long ago. I'm going to show you something. We're going to do some math here in a moment, but we got to go to Daniel chapter 9. And it says this is a prophetic word. Track with me. And this is happening a few hundred years before the day Jesus rides in to Jerusalem. And that prophetic word from Daniel 9, 25 and 26 says, from the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, until he comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. And after the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and will have nothing. These things that he's talking about, Daniel, as he's praying and getting a download from God and he's prophesying, the anointed one being Jesus, these 69 weeks are 69 weeks of years. And so it's a prophetic word that needs to be unpacked to show you this. And there was a man named Sir Robert Anderson that made a discovery about the timeline of the prophecy. He lived in the 1800s and was an intelligence officer and devout Christian, a theologian and writer. And he's best known for his book, The Coming Prince, in which he analyzes Daniel's prophecy of those 70 weeks. He applied mathematical precision and historical research to the prophecy in Daniel, focusing on that 69th week to figure out the timeline of when Jesus would come into Jerusalem. That word went out from King Artaxerxes to Nehemiah in 445 BC. So when he says from the time that Jerusalem was being restored, that dates back to Nehemiah chapter 2, where Nehemiah goes to restore it. Now stay with me. Okay, 69 weeks of years equals 483 years in his discovery of what he made. So that's 483 prophetic years, which equals 173,000 880 days. Okay. From the time that Nehemiah started building, which was years before Daniel had even prophesied this, but he prophesied the timeline. That date was March 14th, 445 BC. Now, that was the start of those 70 weeks of prophecy. Are you following me? Now, scholars attribute April 6th, 32 AD as Palm Sunday. Daniel said those 483 years, when you do the math, is 173,880 days. And when Sir Robert Anderson did the math, it's the same exact number of days from March 14th, 445 BC, when Nehemiah got started, which is what he said, to April 6, 32 AD, it's exactly 173,880 days. That's Palm Sunday. That means Jesus rode in on the exact day that Daniel prophesied, to the day that he came in on time. Which means that we serve a God who is a God of prophetic precision. He didn't come around the time that it was prophesied. He didn't come a little early. He didn't come 3 days late, so it's kind of close. You're telling me that a dude named Daniel prayed and saw from the Lord and prophesied the claim that the anointed one, the ruler, which was Jesus, would come in, and they did the math, and from the day that Jerusalem, which he said was going to be built, to the day that he came in, was this many days, and God did it? That's insane to me. That it is exactly on time. So when the crowd was shouting, Hosanna, which means save us, they were living in the manifestation of a near 500-year-old promise. Like I said, victory is not when you see it. It's when God says it. So let me tell you, God's never late and he's never random. He's right on time. He's right on time. He rides in exactly to a prophetic precision when he's supposed to. Now, I have to tell you that because that's timing. That's the timing piece of all of this. So he's fulfilling the prophecy, but yet it tells us in the text that Jesus weeps over the city. As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it. Wait, what? I thought Jesus entered into a celebration. Shouldn't he be full of joy? Palm branches and praise, and now he's crying. It's because that the people were shouting in the streets, and yet their hearts were still blinded to the truth of who he really was. This is the heartbreak of prophecy ignored. They had the scriptures, they had the signs, they had the Savior, and they still missed it. They had the calendar, but the condition of their heart was wrong. That's what I call a missed moment. Listen to me. Jesus is weeping because they missed the moment. They didn't recognize. And the very same people who are shouting, Hosanna, save us, in a few days will look at that same man and they'll say, crucify him. And he's weeping because they missed the prophetic appointment. They missed their visitation. They missed their peace. They wanted a sword to go and fight and fight and fight and overthrow Rome, and he brought a cross. They wanted a crown, but he was coming with compassion. They wanted a revolution, but he was bringing redemption. And so they're missing the whole moment because the calendar's right, but the condition of their heart is wrong. Because the king didn't come the way they expected. I think that looks a lot like us sometimes. What if the calendar is always right? What if this day right here, right now, April 13th of 2025 was a prophetic appointment and the calendar is synchronized with the heavenly calendar of God? But the question is, so that we don't miss the moment, will our hearts be right in the condition to receive what God has for us in the moments that we come, or will we just simply miss it because the condition of our heart is not receptive to the things of God? Because sometimes God does things a different way than what you expected him to. And when God does something different than what you expect, you get mad. See, they thought that he was going to do this great thing and he was going to sit on the throne of Rome. What they missed is that he was going to sit on the throne. It's just a supernatural heavenly throne. And the gap difference between their expectation and his reality was so stark that they're frustrated a few days later, still missing the moment, saying, crucify him. He didn't march into the Colosseum and shut the place down. He didn't go to Caesar's palace and kick him out. We wanted to rule now. We thought this was the fulfillment of all the things. And it was, but it wasn't the way that they expected him to do it. They wanted something and they missed a moment. And right now, Jesus is not riding on a donkey, but he is riding on the wind of the Spirit. He is riding into your heart. Will you open the gates? Will you open the door? Will you open your soul? Don't wait for what you think is the perfect time. You have to operate in this prophetic time. And that's why we lift up our hands. And that's why we open our mouths and we say, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So my point is, don't miss the moment. Don't miss the moment. Don't miss the moments. Do you not have eyes to see and ears to hear? Do you not perceive it? God is doing a new thing. That's what it is. It's this discerning what God is doing. Because when I read that, it floored me. I was like, man, how many days have I missed what it was that God was doing in the moment? Because 173,880 days, I mean, that's a flawless timeline that he was operating on. He says to press in a little deeper. Pharisees, they said, rebuke those disciples. And he replied, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. Which means even the rocks recognized what these religious leaders were rejecting. Is it possible to be close to the presence but far from the purpose? Is it possible to wave our arms like palm branches and miss the Prince of Peace? If they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. Jesus basically said, if they won't praise me, my creation will. Let that hit. That a rock knows when the king's in the room. That a stone knows when glory's passing by. And the people were supposed to know him best were the ones who were resisting him the most. Creation saw what the crowd had ignored. And all of creation was standing in awe and wonder. If they don't shout, promise you the dirt around us will start crying. If they don't do that, then a rock can do their job. Don't you let a rock do your job. Don't let the dirt worship better than we disciples. And don't miss the moment of what this is. God's still keeping appointments and he's counting days and he's right on time. And the good news is that today is your day. Today is the salvation of the Lord according to Scripture. Today is the day that the King is riding on your heart. And my encouragement to all of us, including myself, is don't be so caught up in routine and religion or rejection that we miss our moments. that God has for us. We have to welcome the King and be so sensitive to where we're walking. I got one more for you to close the story up. I'm going to John 12. John 12. This is what's crazy. John keys us into everything I've talked about. John is the author, and he's detailing this about 2 decades after it happened. John 12, verse 16 says, at first his disciples did not understand all this. They didn't do the math. They didn't get all the prophetic alignment that God was doing. They missed it. They didn't understand it. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things have been written about him, and that these things have been done to him. That's just like John's aside, you know. He just kind of breaks the fourth wall and sets that there. And they've all talked about Daniel, and they've talked about Zechariah, and they've done the math now years later, and they're going, we didn't see it. We didn't understand it. But as we looked at it, these things that had been written, they were about him. That he's the one true God. He was the Messiah, is the Messiah, the anointed one, the ruler of the whole world. And what we thought he was coming to do was sit on a Roman throne. He wasn't coming to sit on a Roman throne. He was coming to sit on the world's throne, to oversee it and to rule it. And he was coming to have dominion over the whole thing. That at the end of it all, every knee would bow and tongue confess that he's Lord. And so he goes back to the story. Now the crowd that was with him when he had called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he had performed this sign, went out to meet him. Here comes those Pharisees again. It's religion that usually messes everything up. So the Pharisees said to one another, see, this is getting us nowhere. They had their own agenda, getting them nowhere. It wasn't propping up their power. Jesus is getting all the attention now. Jesus is getting all the approval now. The hearts are turning towards him, and they're going, see, this is getting us nowhere. And I close with this, because this line right here, this was a prophetic word. They didn't even know what they were saying. See, it's getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him. Look how the whole world has gone after him. Everybody in the sphere, everybody in the radius and the ecosystem began to turn their attention off the things of the world, and they began to turn their attention onto the thing of God, which was Jesus. And they were saying, the whole world is gathered here, and they're going after him. All these people, they had heard and seen this sign of Lazarus. They went out to meet him, and there was this movement happening. People were spreading the word, and faith was stirring, and curiosity turned into pursuit, y'all. They were intrigued, and now they're seekers. And the resurrection of Lazarus didn't just raise a man from the dead. It awakened this city. And this miracle had now turned into momentum. And the Pharisees say in frustration, see, it's getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him. His enemies couldn't deny the momentum. They weren't just dealing with a man. They were watching a kingdom be established. Because when people get a glimpse of resurrection power, they don't want religion. Listen to me. They want reality of what the resurrection can do for them. And they weren't looking for hype. They had seen a man, and they knew that there was hope. They didn't want more tradition. They wanted transformation. And this is what happens when people stop spectating and we start seeking the things of God, and we trade in all that tradition for a true transformation. We trade in the spectating sport of religiosity for the kingdom assignment of seeking his face and knowing his name. And these people got that, and the Pharisees were saying the whole world has gone after him. Listen, We got to be a church that has an awakening in this city where people are going, look at how that church has gone after him. See, the whole town of Lexington is now flocking to him. He's got their attention. He's got their eyes. He's turned to him. And there's this little movement of people where I hear some stuff happening and they believe that life was meant to be vivid and expressed in such a way where we're not just bystanders playing cultural adjacent Christianity because we're a little bit conservative and everybody kind of thinks the same morals wise, but it was real authentic and pursuit is happening. And oh my God, they're starting to turn the world upside down. See, the whole world is going after him. Going after him. Look how the neighborhood's going after him. Look how your family's going after him. Look at how that workplace is going after him. That whole street is going after him. Let it be said of you that when Jesus passes by, you don't just stand there, but that you run after him. May it be said of us, because those who pursue him, they always encounter him. As I prepped this week, I had this moment in my house. Amanda had gone to the store with our oldest daughter, and I was in the house with my two youngest daughters, Maisie and Lennon. And so Maisie was cleaning the room, and she said, Dad, come see, I did it. So I run upstairs, and I look at all that she's done, and, you know, there was a pile of stuff just crammed under the bed. So we gave praise first, because she attempted, and by all intents and purposes, it was clean. But I sat down on the floor, and I said, hey, what's this? And so I pulled out, you know, just a bunch of dirty clothes and whatnot. And she was like, oh, all cute, you know. I didn't know what to do with that. So I just shoved it under there. I was like, boy, oh boy, what a Kendrick motto that is, man. And so I'm starting to help her, you know, let's hang this up. Let's put that in the dirt, all this. And Lennon comes in, and she was like, can you come see my room? And I said, I'll be there in a minute. Give me just a minute. I got to help Maisie with this thing. And so Lennon runs out of the room, and I'm with Maisie another 10 or 15 minutes. Amanda's not in the house. And once I'm done, I go to Lennon's room, and she's not there. And I thought, oh, well, maybe she's downstairs. And so I go downstairs, and I'm, Lennon, where are you at? Where'd you go? And so I'm looking, and I go to my bedroom, and I don't see her. And, hey, Lennon, hey, where are you? I'm like, maybe she's in the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and not there. Go back upstairs and I start looking. And you know, once I get upstairs, we only have 2 floors. There's not like a whole lot of other places she could be. And so I'm getting a little nervous, and I'm like, well, maybe she's in the backyard. And so I take off downstairs and I'm like, hey, Lennon, are you in the house? And I go into the backyard and I look around and crying, Lennon. And I haven't seen her yet. I go to the garage, and the whole garage door was open. I didn't know it. Right here, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, what do? Do I run down the street? Because if she ran down the street, then I need to go get her. But if she's in the house, maybe somewhere, I don't know. I can't leave Maisie, and I don't want Maisie. I'm just messed up. You know, you're in that moment, and you're just making decisions. You're just thinking. And so I go in the house and I'm like, hey, Lennon, joke's up. So if you're here, it's not funny anymore. Where are you? I really need, you know. And I tried this line. Lennon, Maisie and I are going to go get ice cream. She's 3. I'm like, trick move. Checkmate. It's over. Until Lennon didn't come out. And now I'm freaking out. And I'm like, I got to call Amanda and tell her I lost our kid. And so I'm like, and Maisie's getting nervous, and so Maisie's welling up with tears, and she's like, Daddy, where's Lennon? And I'm like, and my heart's racing. And after a while, out of nowhere, to relieve the tension of the story, I hear Lennon go, "Hey, Dad." And I said some things about right there that I won't repeat. I love Jesus, but I might cuss a little from time to time. And that moment was a good one. And so I run downstairs, and there's Lennon in the living room. And I went, "Lennon, where were you?" And she was like, "I thought we were playing hide and seek." "What do you mean? We were cleaning the house. There wasn't hide and seek." And I looked at her and I said, "Hey, you scared me. I was on a full-blown search to find you. I didn't know where you were. I thought you had run down the street because the garage door is open and Mom's not here, so there's no car in the garage. It's just gone. And Daddy loves you too much to let anything like that happen to you." And then, firmly, I said, "Don't you ever do that again. When I say the gig's up, the gig's up. I used ice cream and you didn't emerge." Now, how many of y'all know at the height of urgency and importance, I was not thinking about how clean the house was anymore. I didn't care that I had a couch. Well, I got that. I didn't care that the bedroom was put away real nice and all the things were happening. In fact, to be real honest with you, I did not say, "Well, at least I got Maisie. I got one." No, when my child was lost, the only thing that I could think about was finding that which was important to this dad's heart. And when we're thinking of Jesus, I need to let you know that when he rides into Jerusalem and he goes into this city and he announces his kingdom, he cares so much that he weeps over broken, lost people. And he's going, I'm here, I'm pursuing you. Where are you? Come out, wherever you are. There's love here, there's embrace here. And I'd go all the way to the cross because it doesn't matter how many people who have already found him. The disciples were walking with him, and he wasn't crying over the disciples. He was crying over lost people who did not know his name yet, who a city was broken. And when I think about us, he cries for you, and he seeks that which is lost, to save that which is lost. That he says that the timing of the Lord has come, and it's not just that we go towards him, it's that he's already been coming towards us. That he pursues us, that before Jerusalem praised him, he had already rode into it. That he got started and initiated the journey, and he's initiating it in your heart too. And the question that I leave you with is, will you run back to him?